What is poppin', people? Malik Rayshon here with a different type of video. Today I'm going to be talking about trauma cycles. This is something that I believe we all have experience with, and the only difference between my experience and your experience is how aware are we of the trauma that is cycling. Before I get into talking about my experience with trauma cycles, I want to define what that actually is. There's a couple different ways of looking at it. If you were to Google it right now, it'll tell you when trauma is passed down through generations. I'm going to be talking about trauma that we experience individually that replays and shows us how to protect against that trauma, how to be aware of the trauma, how to grow and heal from the trauma. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we start our conversation, drop a like on this video if you are currently aware of a trauma cycle in your life. Drop a comment and tell me if you are aware of that trauma cycle. What is it? What does it look like? How can you break it? Have you broken the cycle? If you have, congratulations. Share this video with your friends, family, and followers to help me grow my audience. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button. My experience of trauma cycles kind of goes all over the place. It hits all the boxes: love, loss, addiction, sleep deprivation, different sections of cycles of trauma that I experience. So let's start with the first one that I'm currently the most present to, which is love. So my love trauma starts with me feeling like my story is more worth telling when someone else, a significant other, is a part of that story. And what that allows me to do is to say, yeah, my life is cool, but
I don't have anyone to share it with.
And that makes all of it less valuable. Even though these are all spaces for me, these are all spaces that I am tending to my purpose, but something in me tells me that this purpose is more worth pursuing when there is a significant other by my side. It's not wrong to want to share life with somebody, but at a certain point, when we start to notice like all of these relationships aren't working out, they're all crumbling, they're all ending in fire, one person after the next, they're just all trash. What that tells me is that there is a cycle here that has not been broken. And that's not anyone's fault, but that is something that we all need to be aware of. I think I can trace that trauma back to just being raised by single women and subconsciously just always chasing that relationship that always seemed to be missing. And of course, another thing that adds on to the lack of success of those relationships is that I had never seen a healthy relationship. Because I didn't see that, I didn't know how to have that, but also because I didn't see that, it inspired me to want to create that for myself. The next trauma cycle that I want to look at is addiction. I really want that conversation to be one that's more normalized and people can just sort of feel more comfortable and safe talking about addiction. So for those of you who do not know me, I am an addict of weed.
Oh, come on, it's just weed. It's not like it's heroin.
Well, yeah, it's not heroin, but I still be acting like a crackhead. So there were certain emotions and thoughts and ideas that weren't able to be nourished into action because my consciousness was so heavily altered and my light was so heavily dimmed. It was covering my ears from the voice of the divine. It was making it so that I was playing a character of myself. I would recognize I'm going to be slower with my processing. I'm going to be less emotionally vulnerable. I'm going to be less able to pursue complex thought. So I would recognize those things and I would take a step back. I would say, okay, this is how it's affecting me. It doesn't seem to be having an overall positive effect. So I'm going to take a step back. And I would take a step back for maybe a week.
A few moments later.
Okay, I stepped back, load that bong, I'm gonna hit that shit fat, and it's all gonna be gravy. No. The cycle of addiction is its own conversation, but how it cycles is you get comfortable, you say, I'm doing good now, so I can
smoke weed every day.
It's not dissimilar from this relationship with old girl didn't work out, but she's changed, I've changed. Maybe we could work things out. Maybe it could.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
It cannot. It has not. It will not. That's not to say anything that is bad will be bad forever, but certain things exist for us to learn that those things are not for us at all. One piece of trauma that presented itself in my thoughts is, how do I put this? The giver who attracts takers. What I mean by that is someone who shows up for other people in ways that the people in their lives are unable and or unwilling to show up for them. This looks like you calling someone because they're having a breakdown, everything's going to shit, and that same person neglecting your needs in the friendship. Someone who will pick and choose when they can be there for you. Man, you're so easy to talk to. We're easy to talk to because we're empathetic, we care about people. Our natural instinct is to be there for you. Where that gets sticky is when people will take advantage of that. They know that you are a kind spirit who likes to support and love people. No matter what it is that you might be going through, they're just gonna drop their stuff right on your head and you're gonna have to deal with it as if it's your own. They might even put the responsibility on you for you to make them feel better about what it is that they're going through, even if they're the ones who caused the motherfucking bullshit. Us healers and us givers, we've all had that moment where somebody comes to us for support when we are low, when we are empty. And even still, because we are empaths, because we care, we show up and we overexert ourselves. And by the end of that moment, we feel drained, we feel absolutely empty, we might even feel frustrated. Maybe at this point, we've taken on some of the emotions of whoever it is that we're supporting through whatever it is that they're going through. And that is a cycle that a lot of us experience in several different people. When people are asking for my support, I have to know that it's coming from someone that if the roles were reversed, they would be there for me just as quick as I would be there for them. In the pursuit of community and the pursuit of love and belonging, we don't always ask ourselves that question of, is this person going to be there for me how I'm there for them? And that's not to say that we only show up for people so that they'll show up for us, but if you don't show up for those who show up for you, you are taking advantage of them. You are not showing them that they're valued, and you are choosing to not be a part of their support system and expecting them to be a part of your support system. That's not being a good friend. That's not being a loving person. And you're not actually growing that way. You're putting your growth on that person, but it's not on them, it's on you. That is a cycle that we see ourselves in often. United, we cycle. Yeah! Sorry to interrupt the video. I didn't love the way that I ended it, so I kind of wanted to just chime in after having watched everything and then give my final thoughts. The main thing that I want you all to know about trauma and trauma cycles is that it did not start with you, but it can end with you if you make a commitment to breaking the cycles. Sometimes we aren't able to actually break our own cycles, but what we might find is the opportunity to work through those cycles with and for our children if and when we're blessed with them. In some cases, with and for our parents and grandparents, or between siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews. There's room for healing in all those spaces. Yeah, I just wanted to take a second to talk about trauma cycles. If you learned something or if you felt inspired to share your experience, please post in the comments. Let me know what you got going on in your trauma map, your trauma timeline. What are you dealing with? What do you got going on? What's poppin'? Malik Makes Beats number 6 coming at you next Wednesday, 8:47 a.m. Be there or be square. Either way, I don't care. See y'all next week. Peace. Drop a like for me if you got an addictive mindset. Get addicted to supporting my channel.